Hey, everybody, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. I'm your host, Tony Edward. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button, as well as a thumbs up button, and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Folks, we got breaking news. The SEC has dropped their investigation against Ethereum. This is being reported by Consensys. They tweeted out, Ethereum survives the SEC. Today, we're happy to announce a major win for Ethereum developers, technology providers, and industry participants. The enforcement division of the SEC has notified us that it is closing its investigation into Ethereum 2.0. This is massive news. And we know the Ethereum spot ETFs are right around the corner. And this is not only big for Ethereum, but it's big for altcoins. The SEC is capitulating. They are losing. Scumbag regulator Gary Gensler takes another big L. Not only did he lose in the Ripple case where XRP was declared not a security, he also lost the Bitcoin ETF case where Grayscale sued the SEC and the SEC got called arbitrary and capricious by the courts. Not only that, they just recently got sanctioned in the Debtbox case where they were forced to close their Salt Lake City office. These are massive wins for the crypto industry, and Gary Gensler is looking like a fool. Just last week, he was in front of the Senate folks asking for more budget. Senator Haggerty asked him, is Ethereum a commodity? He couldn't even answer it. He was dancing around the question. And of course, the CFTC chairman, Rostam Benem, was sitting next to him. He got asked the question, is Ethereum a commodity? And he said yes. So Gary Gensler is losing the narrative. Him and Elizabeth Warren are losing. On top of that, you got Democrats are turning on them, both in the House and the Senate. And you have Donald Trump, who's coming out and saying, I'm the pro-crypto candidate. I'll protect your crypto. I'll allow you to self-custody your crypto, and I'll help you get clarity. So Gensler's losing here, and it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing, and this is very bullish for the market. They continue here saying this means that the SEC will not bring charges alleging that sales of ETH are securities transactions. The decision follows a letter we sent on June 7th asking the SEC to confirm that the May ETH ETF approvals, which were premised on ETH being a commodity, meant the agency would close its Ethereum 2.0 investigation. The closing of the Ethereum investigation is monumentous, but it's not a cure-all for the many blockchain developers, technology providers, and industry participants who have suffered under the SEC's unlawful and aggressive crypto enforcement regime. Now, funny enough, guys, just yesterday we heard that the SEC's head of crypto was stepping down, right? We covered that news. So the timing of these things are very interesting, and Gary's just taking loss after loss, and people are leaving the SEC because they don't want to be part of some political agenda. The SEC's core mission is to protect investors, but Gensler, under the control of Elizabeth Warren, has made it political, and his agenda is to protect the incumbents, to try to kill crypto startups and projects so that JP Morgan and their blockchain and their JPM coin can come in and take over. That's the end game, but they're going to lose. Disruptive technology always wins. Look throughout the history of civilization. They said here, our fight continues. In our lawsuit, we also seek a declaration that offering the user interface software MetaMask swaps and staking does not violate the securities laws. It should not take a lawsuit to provide the much needed regulatory clarity to allow an industry that serves as the backbone to countless new technologies and innovations to thrive. But here we are. So, huge news for Ethereum, huge news for the altcoin market, folks. This opens up the door for other altcoins, especially those that are proof of stake, like Cardano, like Algorand, like Avalanche, like Solana, right? The list goes on and on. So huge win here, folks, and a massive loss for Gary Gensler. And remember, the other factor, too, is that the Democrats sided with the Republicans to pass the FIT21 crypto regulation bill, which actually helps to bring clarity to the market, and it takes away a lot of power from the SEC. And we saw at the hearing last week, the SEC is asking for more budget. But what some of the members of the Senate and Congress were saying is that, hey, we're going to cut your budget, especially if you're going to use this capital for enforcement actions against the crypto industry. So Gary's losing on all fronts, folks. It's a beautiful thing. It's a great day, folks. What I'm really excited about too is if we are able to hear very soon in the SEC versus Ripple, if there's some settlement, and I don't think the SEC is going to get $2 billion. I think maybe they get 100 million, 50 million, 100 million, but that will be peanuts for Ripple. And then Ripple can continue to move forward and operate. And they already have the clarity for XRP, and then Ethereum has the clarity here. And this opens the door for the rest of the crypto market. It's amazing, and we're winning, folks. We are on the winning side of history. And as I've been saying, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, which we've been in the past 2 to 3 years, and then you win. We're starting to transition from the then they fight you phase to the then you win phase. It's a beautiful thing. And here, I want to share some thoughts from some folks. Zach Rines, who's a community liaison at Chainlink, and Chainlink is built on Ethereum, said the politically driven approval of the spot ETH ETF was monumental, not because of the ETF, but because the SEC was forced to admit that ETH is in fact a commodity and not a security. Glad to see that has been officially validated. Gensler just can't stop taking the L's. Now, guys, this is, of course, bullish news, but with this clarity, you will see a lot of inflows into the Ethereum spot ETFs. And Eric Balchunas of Bloomberg and also James Safer, they moved up their launch dates for the approvals to July 2nd. Now, that doesn't guarantee it's going to happen then, but it can happen on or around. We saw they were pretty accurate with the Bitcoin spot ETF. So it's coming, and we're seeing the issuers of the Ethereum spot ETFs are updating their S1 applications. So here, Nate Garachi of the ETF store said, here comes the spot ETH ETF S1 amendments. This one is from Bitwise. Assume others will trickle in over the next few days. So the SEC is engaged with these folks. They're updating their S1s, which is the final phase before these Ethereum spot ETFs go live. And check this news out. Bitwise says Pantera Capital, that's Dan Moorhead. I had him on the podcast years ago. He was one of the first hedge funds investing in crypto before all the other people came along. They are interested in buying up to $100 million of shares of the Ethereum spot ETF from Bitwise. Huge for Bitwise. And, they're not the size of BlackRock, but they're doing really well. I've had Matt Hogan. I've had him many times on the podcast talking about ETFs and much more. This is huge news. So I'll try to get him on pretty soon. And we're seeing basket ETFs are starting to pop up now. So James Seyfert said a dual Ethereum and Bitcoin spot ETF filing from Hashdex just dropped, will be market cap weighted. Shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Makes a lot of sense. So we're going to see these basket ETFs eventually as we get, let's say, Solana, XRP, Cardano ETFs. You're going to see the top 10 or the top 5 in these baskets, right? It's coming. Bitwise is actually doing this outside of ETFs. They have an index one. So these things are coming, folks. It's like I've been saying for a long time. Starts with Bitcoin, then it will go to Ethereum, and then the other altcoins. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and we just have to be patient. So huge news here. And as I mentioned earlier, Donald Trump continues to put out there that he's the pro-crypto candidate. And today he was in Wisconsin doing, his campaign promotion and all that. And here's a quote again. He said, to further secure America's future and create opportunity for young people, I will end Joe Biden's war on crypto. The Biden administration is feeling the pressure. That's why they're doing this crypto roundtable coming up with Mark Cuban and Democrat Ro Khanna. The pressure is on. So whether you hate Trump or you love Trump, forget about the man himself and the name, because I know that triggers people. The fact that you have a presidential candidate saying these things is huge. Folks, don't miss it. Don't be blinded by, look, I don't agree with Donald Trump on everything, and I'm not the biggest Donald Trump fan. I'm more of a moderate, and I vote for who's the best candidate, regardless of if they're Democrat or Republican. But I got to respect what he's saying as it relates to this issue. He says, we will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in America. Otherwise, other countries are going to have it. Wow. I mean, these are incredibly bullish statements, folks. And once again, don't be blinded by, hey, I hate Trump. put aside that for a second. This is a presidential candidate saying it, a former president saying it. And I think it will eventually make Biden capitulate. If you saw my interview with Cody Carbone of the Digital Chamber this morning, we talked about with the presidential debates coming up, crypto is going to come up, and you're going to see a lot of people start talking about it. So be sure to check out that interview, guys. All right, quick word from our sponsor, and that is VeChain. VeChain is one of the top layer one enterprise blockchains out there, where many big companies and brands are using VeChain to build sustainability projects, decentralized applications, and many other Web3 technologies. VeChain is partnered with some very big brands such as BMW, Walmart, China, Givenchy. They're working with the Boston Consulting Group. VeChain is secure, it's affordable, it's scalable, it's fast, and it's sustainable. I've been a VET token holder since 2018. I'm very bullish on this project, and it's why I accepted them as a sponsor, because I actually believe in this project. I have skin in the game, and I've been a big fan before, working with them. So if you'd like to learn more about VeChain, go to vchain.org. Link will be in the description. Now, folks, we got some very interesting news being reported here by Eleanor Terra of Fox Business. Apparently, an organization called Consumers Research, which is their slogan is organized to serve consumers, established in 1929. They launched an ad campaign targeting Tether and calling it the next FTX. They're saying that Tether has ties to terrorist trafficking. They were founded by former Disney child stars. So they're talking about Brock Pierce, who I've interviewed, and Brock is not even no longer with Tether. But this seems like a major FUD campaign. I don't know who is doing it. Now, there are some questions about Tether. I want to be fair, right? Over the years, there's been a lot of questions about their reserves and what are they doing and so on and so forth. Now, we know stablecoin regulations are coming in the EU as well as the United States. So let's see what happens here. I think Tether, back in the day, as I've said many times, was not in a good place. I think they are now. They've been doing attestations. We saw Cantor Fitzgerald, CEO, that's a Wall Street firm, who custodies a lot of Tether's funds, said they have the money. He said this at Davos earlier this year. So we are seeing that Tether has positioned themselves in a better place now. I interviewed their CEO a couple of months ago as well. However, I don't have all the details. So I don't think there's necessarily this massive conspiracy and all these things, right? People go nuts sometimes with the FUD. I do think, though, Tether needs to come into compliance with regulations, and we'll see. They probably get fined. I think a fine is in order. I think they're going to have to comply with KYC AML laws. It's kind of like what happened with Binance and so forth, right? It's the cleanup of the market. I've been telling you guys the cleanup is happening. It can't be the wild, wild west anymore. At one point it was, and that's fine. Every market goes through that, but now everything is coming into compliance. I don't think Tether is getting shut down like the FUDsters would say. I think Tether will get fined, and Tether is going to have to align with the government regulations across the globe. So I like to keep things balanced, but this is an interesting ad campaign. And folks, they even did a Times Square digital billboard. They have the domain tethertocorruption.com. Now, the thing is, I get you're trying to amplify the news here, but 75% or maybe 80% of the people walking around Times Square don't have the slightest clue what the hell Tether is. So I don't think this is necessarily a good campaign here. Maybe if they said crypto corruption or something like that, right? People will say, "Oh, crypto, I know about crypto," but they say Tether, but it's like, no one knows who Tether is, right? The average Joe and Jane don't know that. You and I know that because we're in crypto, we're early adopters, but it's interesting, and I don't know who's behind this because, look, I understand people are trying to short the market. They may put this out here to drive fear. There's also competitors. I don't know if competitors are doing this. They could be or they could not be, right? And competitors could be PayPal, Ripple, which is about to launch a stable coin soon. And then you have Circle's USDC, and there's other stable coins out there. So we'll have to wait to get more details. I'm actually going to try to get the folks at Consumer First on the pod to talk about this. Like, where did this come from? Who's funding it, and much more. Who's funding it is certainly important. Now, speaking of FUD, there's been a big pullback in the crypto market. I see people are panicking, and it's good. I've been calling for some fear on Twitter. I've been sharing the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, saying people have been so greedy. We need to feel a bit of fear before we bounce upwards. We are still in a bull market. We are still in an uptrend. As I've been stating recently on the podcast, if Bitcoin breaks 60, that's when I'm going to start to worry a bit, because it's going to be like, okay, something is very different. But until it invalidates itself, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to look at the charts and take a look at the signals and pay attention closely to see what the next move is. But the higher probability here is we are still in a bull market, still in an uptrend. There is a probability, okay, it's done, it's at the end, but that's a very low probability in my opinion. We get some different analysts who gave some updates here. Here, one of them said, anyone who tells you this is a bearish price action should be unfollowed immediately, to be honest. We are currently flipping the previous all-time high resistance / wicks into support as volume declines. Remain patient. Step 6 on my list will begin much sooner than most think. So step 6 is the actual having supply and demand kick in. Another leg up, 80, 90, 100K. So I'm in agreement with that based on my own analysis, not because I'm a super bull or I want to make money. I'm just looking at the charts because I don't want to be an idiot and be faked out, right? I don't want to lose money. So I'm doing my own analysis and seeing the same signals. Here, Julian Biddle of Global Macro Investor, that's Raoul Pal's firm, said what we're currently witnessing in terms of Bitcoin price action is fairly typical around the actual halving. A big pump leading into the halving, followed by a brief but sharp correction, a period of sideways chop, a final dump to nuke any remaining bullish sentiment, another phase of boring sideways trading, and eventually prices beginning to rise again. Basically, it's the boring zone before the banana zone, as Raoul Pal has been saying. Julian says, patience, friends. So as I've been saying, guys, be patient. This thing is still in an uptrend. It hasn't been invalidated yet. And you can't go by sentiment. I see people will say, oh, it's over, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, what are you basing that on? Give me some data. Give me some facts. Give me some technical analysis. Give me some charting, right? They don't. They just go by sentiment because, I don't know, they think they go with herd mentality sometimes. So anyway, guys, that's the news. Big news, like I said, about Ethereum. Huge, huge, huge. Massive win for the crypto industry and a big fat loss for Gary Gensler. And folks, don't forget to grab a copy of my book, Rethinking Crypto. Grab a copy in paperback or digital. Get a couple copies for your friends and family. If you bought a copy already, please leave a rating and review. It will really help me out and support the podcast. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you all later.